Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are taking a really profound and intensely personal tragedy that recently impacted the professional baseball community.
And we're using it as a critical lens.
Exactly. Our mission is to examine the essential and, often overlooked structural protections or, frankly, the lack thereof for professional athlete parents across the globe.
We have a really comprehensive stack of sources for you today. On one hand, we're looking at news reports and the immediate public reaction around Dodgers pitcher Alex Vesia and his wife Kayla.
And that material, it really captures the raw collision between private grief and a very public career.
It really does. And then on the other side, we're analyzing global best practice guidance for maternity and parental policies in professional sports. So this kind of lays out the safety nets that, should exist when these moments happen.
So we're going to start with the human element, the deeply emotional circumstances that led to this athlete needing time away. The story really started publicly in October 2025, right before the World Series.
And it very quickly became much, much bigger than baseball.
Absolutely.
That's right. So Dodgers reliever Alex Vesia, number 51, was suddenly left off the World Series roster. And the team just announced it was due to a deeply personal family matter.
The public response, especially on social media, on Reddit, it was immediate and, well, it was telling.
The speculation was just so intense, and it was all fueled by the very specific language the organization used. They talked about a heavy heart, and they asked for thoughts and prayers.
And that phrasing, that was the key signal for everyone following along.
It was. Kayla Vesia had been very public about her pregnancy since April 2025, and she was due right around that time.
So people knew.
Oh, yeah. And as so many commenters pointed out, a successful delivery would have prompted congratulations.
Not thoughts and prayers.
Exactly. So the immediate fearful consensus was that the family was facing some kind of imminent health crisis involving their baby.
The handling of his absence by the Dodgers front office is actually our first real glimpse into the policy side of this whole discussion.
It is.
The team chose not to place Vesia on the family medical emergency list.
And that was a very deliberate, a very humane choice. It showed just how aware they were of the situation's magnitude.
Because that list has a minimum 3-day absence, right?
Right, but it also implies an expectation that the athlete will be back pretty quickly. The president of baseball operations, Andrew Friedman, he actually stated the move was specifically to prevent any pressure on Vesia to come back.
So he would have unlimited time.
Exactly.
For his family.
The heartbreaking reality was confirmed not long after. On November 7th, 2025, Alex and Kayla Vesia announced on Instagram that their daughter, Sterling Vesia, passed away on Sunday, October 26th.
Just days after she was born.
Yeah.
And that initial wave of grief was, it was followed by the sustained community response. Vesia, understandably, missed the World Series victory parade.
But his teammates, people like Will Klein, they confirmed the whole team was messaging him. They dedicated the win to him and his family.
The sentiment was unanimous. We did this all for him. What really stands out here, I think, is how quickly the entire sports world unified. It just bridged all these competitive lines.
Oh, completely. The opposition, the Toronto Blue Jays bullpen, they had this extraordinary gesture of solidarity. They inscribed Vesia's number 51 on their caps during the World Series.
Wow.
It was such a powerful moment. It just showed that, tragedy completely supersedes rivalry.
And that unity translated into action.
It did. That cross-border unity. Hundreds of donations poured into a Toronto hospital in their daughter's honor. And then on just a purely human level, his teammates, Jack Dreyer and Dalton Rushing, they showed up at the Vesia home matching his pajamas.
A moment of levity.
A much-needed moment, providing the family with a good laugh amidst all that grief.
The complexity of that situation, having to navigate such profound grief while being in the public eye.
Yeah.
It just underscores the need for real structural support.
It does.
It's clear the team's human response was excellent, but, not every athlete plays for an organization with that kind of compassionate leadership.
Exactly right. That deeply personal experience, the need for unlimited time away, the financial insecurity that could easily come with it, and that collision of private life with a massive public contract. It illustrates perfectly why we have to move beyond just compassion and implement formal structural protections in sports contracts.
And this brings us right to the policy framework, specifically the World Players' Best Practice Guidance for Maternity and Parental Policies in Sport.
And we're looking at this not just as, a set of rules, but as these key frontiers in the global fight for athlete rights.
First, we have to understand the stakes.
We do. And this fight for rights is particularly critical in women's sports because of the strict biological timeline. A 2017 FIFPO survey found that 47% of professional female football players considered retiring early just to start a family.
47%, that's nearly half.
It's huge. And yet only 2% of those players surveyed actually had children. When your career peak years overlap so precisely with your prime fertility years, structural support is the only way you can retain talent and, provide real equity.
So let's start with the first frontier, the one that speaks so directly to the Vesia family's experience. Protection for pregnancy loss and return to health.
Right. Policies have to explicitly address these devastating possibilities. We're talking about miscarriage, which happens in 10 to 15% of pregnancies, stillbirth, or newborn loss.
And the mandate here is not just for generic sick leave.
No, not at all. Employers have to provide compassionate leave and really flexible return-to-play options that are entirely tailored to the athlete's medical and, just as importantly, their emotional recovery needs.
So it's about a bespoke medical plan, not some one-size-fits-all policy.
Precisely. For example, you have agreements like the Australian Cricket Association Cricket Australia Players Parental Leave Policy. It explicitly ensures this tailored support is done in collaboration with medical professionals. And it's not tied to a specific number of days. It acknowledges that healing from this kind of loss, well, it doesn't have a standard timeline.
But even with guaranteed compassionate time off, the biggest stressor for anyone is money. If you're a pro athlete on a short-term contract, a whole season of absence could be financially crippling. Which moves us to the second frontier, guaranteed financial security during leave.
And this is where global standards really clash with U.S. norms. Best practice dictates that the athlete must receive 100% of their contracted salary during pregnancy and parental leave.
100%.
100%. Agreements like the AFL-FLPA guarantee this. And while the International Labor Organization, the ILO, sets a minimum benchmark of 14 weeks paid leave, best practices in elite sport extend that coverage, often for up to 12 months.
That sounds incredibly expensive for clubs. Is there much pushback from leagues on guaranteeing a full salary for potentially an entire year?
Oh, there is, which is exactly why mandatory, legally binding rules are so necessary. We have a huge example of this from women's football. Sarah Björk Gunnarsdottir, a highly decorated Icelandic footballer, she secured a landmark victory in 2022 against her club, Olympique Lyonnais.
So her club, one of the biggest in the world, tried to violate the rule.
They did. They initially failed to comply with FIFA's 2021 maternity regulations and tried to reduce her pay while she was pregnant. Her victory proved that even top-tier clubs need these mandatory, legally enforceable policies to prevent discrimination.
The verdict set a global precedent, then.
Absolutely. It clearly stated that contracts can't be broken or salaries reduced because of pregnancy. It just underscores that policy is the shield. Compassion alone isn't enough.
Okay, so moving past the birthing parent, the third major frontier deals with the expanding definition of parenthood. This is about support for non-bearing parents and crucial family planning services.
This area is seeing the fastest evolution, and it's largely being led by women's leagues in the U.S.
Interesting.
For non-bearing parents, so fathers, partners, adoptive parents, best practice grants at least 2 weeks of paid leave. But the NWSL Players Association, CBA, it offers 8 weeks at 100% base salary for all parents.
8 weeks,
Right.
regardless of how the family is formed. I mean, 8 weeks paid leave in the U.S. is groundbreaking. There's practically zero federal mandate for paid parental leave here.
Exactly. U.S. women's leagues are basically setting the national standard because their athletes lack those basic federal protections. And what's more, the WNBA's CBA provides crucial financial coverage for adoption, surrogacy, and fertility treatments, including egg freezing.
So this isn't just about time off, it's really about player autonomy over their career timing.
Absolutely. The career of an elite athlete is finite. It peaks in their 20s, maybe early 30s. Egg freezing and surrogacy, they decouple a player's physical prime from their biological clock.
You see it with players like Breanna Stewart.
Right, the WNBA MVP.
Yeah.
She used egg freezing and surrogacy to start her family. This is a policy mechanism that allows players to delay biological parenthood without jeopardizing their income or their career longevity. It fundamentally changes the choice an athlete has to make.
That level of coverage is just phenomenal for career sustainability. Okay, finally, let's address the massive practical barrier for any traveling professional parent: childcare and travel accommodations.
This is a huge financial and logistical hurdle. The essential shift in policy here, it focuses on covering the travel expenses of one caregiver and the child for team duties.
Explain that financial penalty for the listener. Why is that mandate so critical?
Well, imagine you're an athlete on an $80,000 contract. You have to travel internationally for 3 months. If you have to pay for a flight, lodging, and everything else for a nanny or your own mother, that could easily cost you $5,000 to $10,000 out of your own pocket.
Just to keep your infant with you.
Right. So the league is essentially taxing you for being a parent. This policy ensures the athlete isn't financially degraded just for fulfilling their parental role.
And the history of this fight, it really shows just how much progress has been made.
It's a remarkable difference over the last decade. Back in 2013, Australian footballer Heather Garriock had to pay half the cost for her mother and her 11-month-old daughter to travel with the national team.
And the difficulty of that actually contributed to her retirement.
It did. But you fast forward, and now subsequent CBAs allow players like Katrina Gorey to travel with her children while competing on the national team, fully covered. That is the measurable impact of union action.
And for athletes who are in team housing, the logistics have been standardized as well.
Yes, leagues like the NWSL and WNBA now have standards requiring that if a player has children living with them, the team must provide a two-bedroom unit.
That makes sense.
And on the road or at home, policies mandate private, hygienic spaces for breastfeeding or expressing milk. It recognizes the physical realities of being a postpartum athlete.
This deep dive has woven together, I think, the intense human experience of grief with the complex and often slow-moving process of structural reform.
You've really seen how one family's vulnerability and private heartbreak drew this extraordinary outpouring of human support, from rivals honoring their jersey number to teammates dedicating a World Series victory.
But crucially, you've also seen how that emotional experience is inextricably linked to the struggle for mandated, legally binding protections across global sports.
Right.
So while the human element, the compassion shown by teammates, all that emotional support is undeniably vital for mental health and community, the essential transformation lies in the move toward comprehensive written contracts.
Covering everything from tailored stillbirth leave to 100% salary during parental absence to covering caregiver travel.
These formalized policies are what ensure an athlete's career isn't cut short just by the decision to build a family.
And this leaves us with a necessary, provocative thought. The peak physical years of an athletic career overlap precisely with the prime years of fertility. As professional sports continue to mature, particularly the women's leagues, which are often forced to lead these changes, the question is no longer if teams should support parent athletes.
The real question now is how quickly can every major league adopt these comprehensive, legally binding policies to ensure no athlete ever has to choose between maintaining their professional livelihood and starting or expanding their family.